Good morning. Um, I'm going to settle in and just talk with you guys. Uh, I'm feeling a strong shift from spirit to uh, share less on TikTok and Facebook and actually just really start sharing on this Oracle High Priestess of Travail Unum, which is a ridiculously long, I know that's a long title. But the reason I'm here is because I need to just be able to talk with you guys. Just sit back and forth. Well, there's no back and forth, but just sit here and talk with you because I have some perspective shifts that I need to share. I'm coming from a galactic perspective, and I'm just going to lean here. I'm a director. I'm a theater stage director, and I know that I'm not doing this the way you're supposed to do it. There's no energy. I'm leaning against a wall. But the thing is, this information that I have to share is kind of beyond controversial. It's beyond all the conspiracy theory and alien stuff. It's about all that, but I have a perspective on all of that I have not heard anybody else talk about. And it contradicts a lot of other people. So I'm just going to say, if you resonate with my energy, if you resonate with anything I say, you'll notice that I actually do have a tendency to just kind of talk and prepare my audience for what I'm going to talk about, because that means only the people who really need to hear this message are going to hear it. And the very real reality is that sometimes the only people who need to hear this message is me and the spiritual beings in high places who are listening. And that's why a lot of my videos don't get a lot of views, because I'm not sure that humanity is ready to hear what I have to say. If you are listening, thank you. But I need to talk about the lens through which we look at history. There's a lot of ancient writings that are coming to the surface that have been suppressed for many years by intended evil that has been working through the patriarchy. Okay, the patriarchy in and of itself is the puppet. It is the puppet outside that is being played with. And so we can blame and fight against the patriarchy, and that's a very good thing to do, because what the patriarchy has done on this planet for the last hundreds of years, thousands of years even, is horrific, and it's awful. But the patriarchy are puppets. The men who have installed, the men in power, the souls living in physical bodies, the men that have been on the Council of Nicaea and have done all this, been in governments and been royal kings and warriors and soldiers and generals and all that sort of stuff. The men who have physically perpetuated the oppression on this planet, whether they have good intentions or not, they're all been used as puppets. But at the same time, some of them have been used by benevolent aliens. And the war in the heavenlies is a very, very real thing. There is one consciousness, one God. And I know a lot of people have different terminologies for that God. There are many. Okay, so you've got the one consciousness, the source of all creation, the place from where everyone and everything came from. I like the reference that in the Love and Thunder movie with Thor, they talk about going to eternity and how eternity was kind of at the center of the universe, and it was this magical place that you could get your wishes, and not really, but yes, but anyway. Eternity, the core source of all creation, the center of everything that's ever been created, is both a force, may the force be with you, but it's also, there's a consciousness to it. And that's where we all are birthed from. We are all birthed from that place. And the souls in our physical bodies, now in our physical bodies are just the meat suits, okay? They're the temporary meat suits. They're the temporary car or rocket or plane or whatever, bicycle. They're the temporary vehicle that we are driving around in, experiencing this current life, the present life that we are living. Because as souls, our soul, what is inside, riding in our body, and the soul is not separate from the body. The soul is installed into the body in such a way that it's like tapestry woven. And so there are definite places where the physical body is separate from the soul, like the wrist, and there are places where the soul is separate from the physical body, but the vast amount of the physical body is interwoven together. So the state of your physical body will affect your soul, and the state of your soul will affect your physical body. So medicine, Western medicine, trying to fix people will affect your soul in whatever way it does. But Eastern meditation and organic or magic or indigenous medicine, which is soul-based, will also affect your body. And sweet everything that is love. I would fucking love for one day for us to engage both. You know, scientific Western or scientific medicine and all that sort of stuff combined with meditation and soul understanding, and then you get the whole, and it's like, oh, boo, that would work. But the thing is, the war in the heavenlies that has gone on is the spiritual aspect. And the spiritual aspect, so you've got your body like this, and you create a portal here, your portal. And the spiritual aspect is the flow of one consciousness through your body and soul. And it is filtered through your body and soul in accordance with your unique personality. So that's why the spirit flow, yes, my darling, that's my kitty cat wanting attention right now. The spirit flow will flow through you in a unique way. So while it might all be the one consciousness, give me a second. Okay, this is Vanessa. She wanted attention. Look at this goddess. Oh my goodness, she's my princess goddess. She's definitely. And she hates being picked up, so she's being so good right now. Put her down. There you go. Because we all need to just have attention. So the war in the heavenlies, the spirit blowing through you is from the one consciousness. And so you can say that we're all one, we're all connected, there's no such thing as time, there's no such thing as individuality, and that's not really true. Time is a construct in physical reality, and so in physical reality, time is very real. In soul reality, time is wibbly wobbly, and in spirit reality, time doesn't really exist. So all of that is true. It's all true on different levels. But when we understand the different levels, then we understand things better. So the spiritual warfare that has been going on, that I'm trying to bring a galactic perspective to, is very layered, okay? So you've got the core source of all creation, God, the God source. And then you have, all of us came out of that. And some beings have been alive for thousands of years. And a lot of the gods that we know about in history are simply created beings who are created after some fashion or race or creed or color or whatever or another. Because we all have, we're all different. We're all unique. But they've been around a long time. They live extra long lives. They've got a lot of technology. I mean, just look at the technology changes that has happened on this planet in the last 100 years. 1923, 2023. Imagine, and it's getting exponentially, like it's a J curve. So technology is coming out exponentially faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Like boom, 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 boom. So imagine if you've been alive for 5,000 years. Phenomenal technological power. It's to the point where you actually have the ability to not just create plays and write stories and perform on a stage, and not just the ability to then change that from performing onto a stage to performing in movies, and then change that to not just performing in movies, but performing on a computer. So then you begin to replace real human beings, who were on stage, who were then in movies. You begin to kind of phase over a little bit of CGI. So it's still a human being, like Andy Serkis is still the actor, but you kind of, and Benedict Cumberbatch is still the actors, but you phase over CGI, and then you've got Golem and a dragon. So you kind of have that melding, mixing. And then you have fully generated characters, CGI, cartoon that is now becoming 3D, that is now looking, this is this technology. Then you have the ability where we can make little puppets back in, a couple hundred years ago, make a little doll out of straw. Then you add a little bit of clothes to it. And then you make an idol out of clay, or you carve it out of wood. You make a robot. You combine CGI and technology, computer arts with the mechanics, and then you create a robot. And then you have ChatGPT, which is beginning of AI. So imagine a race of people who are so technologically advanced that not just for entertainment, but entertainment is part of it, but also for educational purposes, okay? They're creating stories to understand the meaning of life and to understand how to interact. So a story is all about humanity. A story is all about relationships. How does this person react to this person? Or this person has something happens to this person, something good or bad happens to someone, and then that person relates to the event, or that person relates to the person. And it's all about the interaction of relationships, soul and physical. It's all about learning to understand how to incorporate your physical that's affecting the soul and your soul that's affecting your physical. And that's what story is. Story is this nexus point of understanding how we interact with the world around us, how we interact with ourselves, how we interact with the world around us, how we interact with people around us. And that is the story of eternity. It's just, kindergarten kids react and interact one way, and technically adults are supposed to act and interact a different way. Different cultures interact with each other very differently. I've often looked at the history of patriarchy and thought, my God, it's just like reading Lord of the Flies. It's had an alarm go off, which whenever I'm talking and a ding or an alarm or a notification goes off, it's a confirmation that what I'm saying is really, really true. So if you are not familiar with the story of Lord of the Flies, basically there's a shipwreck, I think, and a bunch of little boys lands on an island where there's no one but the little boys. And it shows how very quickly that those group of little boys devolve from being normal little kids to being hellish children who are killing each other. It's horrific. Horrific. That's the patriarchy. Because, okay, when the masculine functions without the feminine, it devolves into violence and rape and oppression, slavery, warfare, ugly yuck. When the feminine becomes toxic, it devolves into backhanded gossips and slander and politics and the backhanded dealings and the toxic feminine is behind the scenes toxicity, poisoning everything. Toxic masculine is out front, up, aggressive, killing everything. And we really need to balance the masculine, which is physical reality based, and the feminine, which is soul reality based. And we need to find this balance within ourselves and find that balance with others, however we do. This is the story of eternity. So as we look back on history, okay, and a lot of information's coming to light, a lot of tablets are becoming, who can read these tablets are starting to talk about, this is the reality, that there were older races of beings that we call aliens and gods who came to this planet, and they don't use CGI. No, they use genetic engineering. And with their version of CGI and making robots and telling stories, they interacted with the newer soul, more primitive beings, and genetically changed them. Frankly, made us better. But that was like when it happened a long time ago. The reason they did it, we are told, is because they wanted a slave race to just do what they said. Because again, here's this vastly technologically advanced, phenomenally brilliant, ancient being who is trying to accomplish a mighty thing, but they still need someone to go and dig the holes. And I'm not going to go dig the hole. I'm not going to go dig the hole. You know, like the CEO of the building going down and, I don't know, peeling potatoes. The CEO of a multi-conglomeration like McDonald's doesn't peel potatoes. He doesn't even grow them. You know, he'll get someone else to do that. He'll pay someone else to do that. That's what was going on. So these vastly like ancient races of beings who had really big technology came to a planet with, you know, a very, very primitive other race, and then they mixed and messed with their genetics so that they were more capable of being less physical, less instinctual, less gut-based. So their soul was less gut-based, instinctual-based, and they enhanced and heightened their intellect ability and made that so their ability to solve problems and then act on those problems and create habits were kind of advanced. And then what happens is your heart center in the middle. Your heart center in the middle is what's connected to your spirit. So you've got your mind and your heart and your gut, which is your problem solving and your compass intuition, your intellect and your intuition and your instinct and your habit creating. And so they kind of messed with the physical genetics to enable an enhancement of the soul to interact in a more advanced way. So a baby brand new soul who's just baby brand new in this body is able to grow up and mature more. So it's like, this is a very faulty example, but it's a little bit like you take a 4 or 5 year old child who's been at home just learning how to use the potty and walking and all that sort of stuff, and then you engage them into a school setting, or you engage their mind and you begin to teach them to understand how to read and how to write. And that's, again, a very faulty but basic understanding of what was going on. So humanity was given the ability and engaged in an educational experience where we could begin to expand and grow. And the thing I want to talk about this is when you read all these tablets or listen to people who read all these tablets, they're always talking about men, the brothers and the father and all this sort of stuff. And I just wanted to add a little perspective. And we do talk about some of the feminine gods, but the feminine gods that we talk about come from cultures okay, I'm going to touch on this. So you've got every single race on planet Earth has their own gods in their most ancient culture, because the older beings were charged with taking care of this location. Okay, you are given this location. You've got to take care of them. You've got to raise them up and educate them in such a way that you use the local geography as imagery to teach them how to connect with the core source of all eternity. However, between humanity and the core source of all eternity, there's this teaching, the teachers and the mentors layer. And the teachers and the mentors they're like windows. So they step in front of the light of the core source of all creation and the windows, and they express, this is how you connect with eternity. And this is how it began with the indigenous ancient religions. Ancient religion was originally designed as a safe space for baby brand new souls who were just brand new kindergarten, preschool, trying to figure out, oh, I have fingers. What do I do with my fingers? Without going full Lord of the Flies, killing each other, which still happened. And on a galactic level, the war in the heavenlies that I keep talking about, that was a takeover bid. So somebody like the Anunnaki came in and began to slowly take over and infiltrate all the camps of higher beings who were as the gods. And it was a shit show because it took a long time. And so basically humanity, the information humanity is getting is information that has been given to them by their guides and their teachers. But the infiltration takeover that happened on this planet was one nefarious group who then allowed some of the other camps to stay and be like, okay, we've taken over and you have to do what we tell you to do now, but we'll let you do it your way. So they infiltrated some groups. They totally took over other groups. It's just like colonization. Look at all that sort of stuff. There were wars among the cultures. The wars among the cultures and the religions and the nations of Earth is an exact representation, physical manifestation of what was going on in the heavens with the teachers and the mentors. That again, humanity was, our genetics were sped up. So our evolutionary process was sped up so that we could begin to learn a little bit better. But you as a human being are no less or more of a God being. Same as your teachers and your guides. You're the same. Your value is the same. Your worthiness is the same. It's just you're in a different phase of understanding who you are. It's like a kindergartner with a college professor or a middle school kid with their parents. Your kids and your parents are not worth less or more. All lives matter. We're all the same. We all come from the same place. We're just in different phases of our journey. And some people are just very young ages, and some have come here voluntarily signing up and agreed to a certain level of forgetfulness. I know my level of forgetfulness, my job was to come here and remember as quickly as I possibly could, and it's taken me 50 years. But there's also a limitation on how much I can remember because I'm still in a physical body. So my physical brain, because it was broken, my remembering process was horrific. I don't recommend it for anyone, but I know a lot of people gone through that. But just the horror of mental illness and misdiagnosis and mistreatment and all this sort of yuck stuff happening that shouldn't have happened because it was ugly and evil and horrible, and no one on planet Earth should ever be treated like that. However, I did volunteer and sign up for this process because I needed to be in a human body, because the only way to break what was happening, the oppression and the cage, I've done other videos about this, and this is why I just talk forever, because there's so much information. What happened on planet Earth, we have to go, stick with me or don't, whatever. What happened on planet Earth was there was so much negative interference because the war in the heavenlies was everyone was taken over and the nefarious beings took over, and then they inflicted so much oppression and death energies of fear and hate and greed and lust. Soul contracts. They bought and sold and kidnapped souls, Faust contracts, and they generated so much the negative energies that it created a Faraday cage around the planet so that then anyone coming into the planet was stuck and you couldn't leave. So the whole point, reincarnation is the idea is you come to school to learn and then you leave at the end of your lessons. Planet Earth became a place where you couldn't leave, and we were just recycled again and again and again and again, over and over and over. Playing out history repeats itself. History repeats itself. No, history only repeats itself if you don't learn your lesson. Or history only repeats itself if you are held in prison. And that's what happened on this planet. That's not a thing anymore. It's been taken over. That la 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 la. That's the old. We are currently in transition where the death matrix is dissolving away and we are being allowed freedom again. So whether or not you believe in a rapture experience or aliens landing or whatever happens, at the end of your life, when your body leaves your soul and you're disconnected, you will get to leave the planet. And that hasn't happened for thousands of years. So there's a whole new world and a whole new opportunity for many. And what happens to your soul when you leave the planet, well, the universe and the multiverse and that which is outside of creation, the core source of all creation, is eternal love. So there might be some people who need to be held accountable for things that they purposely did, knowingly, but the vast majority of humans on this planet are in forgetfulness, and forced or voluntary. And so there's a certain amount of, you don't really know any better. So when you go back home to the core source of all creation, it's going to be a loving environment of, oh, this is what happened to you, darling. Let's heal the wounds in your soul. Let's get you going. Let's figure out where you're at now. Where were you retarded? Where were you held back? What was your learning path that you were on? Where were you held back? How can we heal you? And then let's talk about what your next plan is. What do you want to do next? Do you want to have a rest period? Do you want to keep going? You get to choose. You are an independent soul. You get to choose. But there's war in the heavenlies and the death matrix and all this sort of stuff. When we start looking at these tablets and ancient history, there's just something, as a woman, there's a question that I want to give to everyone to ask, okay? So when you're reading about all these aliens and the Anunnaki and all this sort of stuff that happened, the one question I want you to keep in mind is, where are the women? Okay, so we talk about the brothers and the father and all that sort of stuff. And these, pulled from the story of Enoch and all this sort of stuff, who was a man who wrote about the men. Because back in ancient history, women weren't interesting enough. Very few cultures actually do have a resurgence of women. And those cultures who do have Freya and Qui-Gon and these great female gods and goddesses, Hecate and all that sort of stuff, and all those pantheons, those were taken over by masculine beings, which is why the feminine has been oppressed for so long. And feminine cultures, indigenous cultures, any culture that rises up from Mother Earth has been oppressed and suppressed by the masculine cultures who came down from the cosmos. That's not to say that Father Cosmos is universally evil. No, there were and are still masculine Father in heaven beings who are very benevolent and are doing their best to help and save humanity from the negative forces that had encaged. And so this is where the layers come in. This is what I was talking about, the layers. I do believe with all my heart, you can make your own choice as you want, that the character or the persona of Satan, Lucifer, whether that was or is an actual being who was known by many other names, that energy, the energy of that character, I believe, was out for their own purpose, had their own goal in mind. Their intention was to create the negative energies of fear, hate, greed, lust, because negative beings feed off that, and it's faster. It's faster to create negative energies than it is to create love. Love is patient, remember? Fear is immediate. So it's faster to generate lots of energy when you do that, so that those who want to feed off that energy get to feast off it. That's the only reason. Human beings were just slaves. They were just generating food for spiritual beings, and it became really, 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 really bad until other benevolent spiritual beings were like, this shit has got to end. But prime directive, we can't interfere. There's also a massive cage. It's like in the movie The Matrix. Imagine this. Okay, in the movie The Matrix, how you see the pod fields where you look out on the fields and there's just like batteries of human beings. Coming in and defeating the aliens immediately would be like turning off the machines. But all of those humans were plugged into the machine. And so it's been a very slow rescue process. Every life is important of trying to rescue every single human being from out of the matrix, while also simultaneously taking down the matrix so it doesn't have enough power anymore. But you've got to take down the matrix in such a way that it doesn't kill everyone inside. And the only way to do that is for volunteers to come and be born into human bodies and change the matrix from the inside, while also simultaneously trying to rescue as many people as possible. But there's still a lot of people who are too young, baby souls, Lord of the Flies, little kids who just, because of the trauma of what they've experienced, their brain chemistry and their inability to connect with their heart is in such a way that they're wounded, and the only way to help them is to help them despite themselves. And the only hope that they have is, you know what, once they die, or we'll rapture them and then we'll do it on a spiritual soul level. But in physical reality, there's only so much you can do. So everything is layers. Everything is complicated. There's no one meme which is why I'm talking for 30 minutes. And I'm still not sure that I've actually got to the point that I'm trying to make, because in order to get to the point that I'm trying to make, I've got to explain all this stuff and tell you the story. But the thing so I'm going to get to it now. The point that I'm really wanting to make is that question, where are the women in this story? Remember that when you are reading or listening to someone talk to you about those tablets and about the history of the Anunnaki and all that sort of stuff, you are listening to a filtered tale where you're only hearing the information that those who are giving the information want to tell you. And I'm going to say it out loud. The energy and those beings who were nefarious beings, their intended purpose was to oppress the feminine, because they don't have a good relationship with the feminine in their own lives, which means there's an entire half a culture that they're hiding from us. What if there was a sister? What if the sister designed this simulation game in order to teach eternal love, but then that simulation game was hacked into and twisted and distorted and turned into a generation of fear and hate? So then that original design of eternal love is still here. It's just been twisted and distorted. So when we who have returned to the planet come here to unravel the twisting and the distortion, we release that feminine rise up from Mother Earth, the nurturing. The first thing that rises up is anger at the oppression. And so the divine feminine is rising up out of the toxicity, pissed as fuck. And it is a very, very fine line to find for someone in human form, remembering step by step by step, because you've got such a limitation in your brain, feeling this injustice rising up and yet trying to figure out how to enact justice in such a way that doesn't devolve you back into a Lord of the Flies mentality. Because women do that. Hens. You ever seen hens peck that henpecked? Here's a big thing to remember whenever you're trying to develop your galactic perspective. Like I said, everyone is of equal value. All lives matter, not just all human lives. Animal, plant, rocks, water, all energy is valuable. All energy holds the same worth. We are all here to love and cherish and teach and train. Discipline comes in with training each other and helping each other push through those death energies into rebirth, whether that death energies in rebirth be a new year or a new habit or a new life altogether. So there's that aspect is a part of it. Hang on a second. I just had a brain fart. Okay, divine feminine rising. That's what I was talking about. So the divine feminine is rising, and we are a nurturer of the entire life cycle. And when you rise up and you get angry, you just kind of rise up in that death, decline, decay. That push through. So we're hearing a lot of that from the divine feminine as she rises up. But once we rise up, we need to be able to readjust and find a rebirth where we generate nurturing and cherish growth and process and maturing and allowing yourself to move through those baby stages that need to just be loved and cuddled, and then the little toddler stages and the discipline, and then the growth and you finding your own independence and coming out into this allowing yourself to grow old, and finding beauty in every single stage, not just physical beauty, because physical beauty's, seriously, we really can't help our bodies that much. Some people just, their bodies look the way they do, and a human body is super freaking weird. It functions strange, and the longer you're in your body, the weirder it gets. It's just a thing. So sure, enjoying your physical body, that's like what we're here. We're here to enjoy our physical body. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy being with other people. But your soul, okay, your physical body is not the only thing. It's your soul will affect everything. So your soul is beautiful and valuable no matter what stage you're at, okay? So whenever you come across a mentality, a mindset, a culture, or a spiritual teaching that insists on a hierarchy and an elitism, that right there, that's not of eternity. Eternity is unconditional love. Now we do hold respect for each other and be like, oh, you are my teacher. You have a better perspective and a better understanding and more experience than I do. So I will humble myself to learn from you with respect. And your teacher will love you and teach you and train you with discipline to help you grow. But that so often gets distorted into this, well, you need to respect me and I'm better than you. No one's better than anybody else. No one is better than anybody else. Elohim, Yeshua, Sananda, Ashtar, Freya, Qui-Gon, all of those higher beings, you are dealing with someone who is a benevolent being direct from the source of all creation when they treat you with unconditional love and respect. If you start dealing with anyone or anything on this planet or off this planet who starts telling you anyone who doesn't think like you is going to hell, you are better than anybody else, or you have this better, you are my children. And if people do not say a certain prayer the way I tell you that they should say, and if they don't believe what I tell you should believe, they're going to hell. And you're special, you're saved. You're special. You're my children. They're not my children. If you want to become my children, you have to become an adoption. You have to be adopted in. And we have fostered. No, that's elitism. That's elitism. Any religion who says, I am better than anybody else because I believe this, 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 and this, and I believe the truth, and my truth is better than your truth, that's all Luciferian. Yes, I said that. And this is where the crazy thing is. I was raised in the Christian church who constantly taught me that Catholics were evil and that the Pope worships Satan. Well, sure, but so does Christianity. Like, all religions worship a Luciferian energy that is changeable and adjusts to tell you secrets to make you feel special so that you think that you're better than anybody else and you don't listen to anybody else and you only listen to your God because your God knows best for you. Now, that's not to say all religions are all evil. No, this Luciferian energy is stepping in front of the light of creation as a window, filtering. So these lines of thou shalts and thou shalt nots, and I am better than you, and you have to believe me and nobody else. This is the Faust contract. This is the Luciferian Faust contract energy. This, however, the light of eternal love that is shining through, eternal love is in every religion. That's the light that shines through from the core source of all eternity. So you can have a lot of Christians and Muslims and whatever Hindu and whatever belief, whatever religion you follow, you can find the truth of eternal love in your religion. That's what's shining through. You just need to begin to differentiate the disciplinarian acts where, it's a good idea to discipline yourself. But you have to understand discipline is a beautiful thing when you need it, but when you grow beyond it and you don't need that discipline anymore, if that discipline is still enacted on you, it becomes a cage. So while you're young, discipline is beautiful and it stops us becoming Lord of the Flies and it teaches us and it shows us the window and we can bask in the light of the glory and the channeled, that this channel becomes the ability to understand and focus and clarify so you can see an actual picture in the stained glass window. See, it brings clarity, but again, that clarity can become a cage. And you, my beloved darling, are the one who needs to connect with the eternal source of light to begin to understand what discipline and what dogma do I need to keep me safe right now? What lessons am I learning? And what don't I need to then begin the freedom of connecting with the source of all creation without windows? Go outside of the church or the building of religion. It's just meant to keep you safe, but then we'll have guards at the door and not let you leave. Learning how to leave that when you're ready, only when you're ready. Again, this is a growth process. The Tower of Babel. Humanity was not old enough to know how to deal with all that power. A bunch of kindergarten kids playing with knives. No, we need to take these knives away from you because you're going to hurt yourselves. You don't know what you're doing. Okay? The kindergarten kids like, and the adults are like, you can use knives when you grow up and learn how to do it. And it takes many, 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 many lifetimes to go from kindergarten child running around with a butcher's knife to being a world-class chef or assassin who knows how to wield that tool appropriately. Humanity is now at an appropriate level where we can understand how to wield those tools. But again, it's a mixed schoolhouse. So some people need to stay in the religions to keep safe. Some people need to leave the fucking church, do everything it takes to get out of the building, to then go and find your connection to creation in nature. Now, that is a physical example of a spiritual principle and a soul principle. And at every stage that you're doing this, please remember that we need to balance our soul with our physical, balance our feminine with our masculine. And the story is all about this interactive moment of relating to that which we are. And that's the end of what I want to say today. I love you. Have a great day.